Test, 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 test. Purple monkey dishwasher. What's up, dude?
What up? What up?
How's it going, man? So today we're doing a little bit of an experimental thing here. I'm recording this one. That's like something that a couple of people have asked me to do. Uh, the last, I feel really bad because the last one that I did had some really good shit, and I completely forgot to record that one. Today is the first one that I'm recording, so hopefully it works. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. I'm gonna create a new channel either today or tonight when I get home from work. I'm gonna create a new channel that's just gonna be for people that do these, so that they can refer back to either their own class, or if they want to watch other people's, they can. Um, so anyway, man, today is going to begin the introduction of kicking. For some people, I probably wouldn't jump right into the kicking aspects of Krabi Krabong, or maybe I will. I don't know. But you already have experience doing some kicking, so it makes perfect sense to me to kind of take the training that you already have and help it along with the new stuff. So the Thai art of Krabi Krabong is their sort of military weapon art from pre-gunpowder times, that was related to Muay Baran, and Muay Baran is what becomes Muay Thai later on. Muay Thai is the ring sport version of it. You see a lot of the same stuff, but uh, if you watch, have you ever seen like Ong Bak, Tony Jaa stuff? No.
No, not really.
No? Okay.
No.
So you definitely, it's cheesy, especially to watch now because it's like almost 20 years old, I think. But Ong Bak Thai Warrior is like the Muay Thai Bruce Lee movie. But he's doing Muay Baran. And then, so Ong Bak, he has to get this, these guys steal his village's Buddha head. I think it's just the head of the Buddha. It might be the whole Buddha. I forget. And so he goes to the city and he gets his Buddha head back through Muay Thai, and he does some Muay Thai. Then uh, there's this second movie called The Protector, which is the exact same movie with an elephant. They steal his village's elephant, and he goes to Australia to get it back. And then they came out with Ong Bak 2, which is set in medieval Thailand. So in that one, you get to see a lot of Krabi swords. You do get to see some Krabi Krabong. That one, I guess, was like this big epic thing that Tony Jaa had planned, and so it got broken into two movies, and they call it Ong Bak 2 and 3, but it's completely unrelated to Ong Bak. Like one of those, when you watch enough foreign martial arts movies, you come to realize sometimes when they put an English name on it, it has nothing to do with what like the original name was. So those movies could have been called something completely different, and we're just like, yeah, Ong Bak 2. What? Um, anyway, that's a good place to see some Krabi happening. They do some pretty typical things, and then there's a lot of it's just Hollywood shit. Or I guess not Hollywood. Bangkok? I don't know. I don't know where they make movies in Thailand. I don't think they have many cities. I think it'd be Bangkok, or it might even be Hong Kong, to be honest.
Yeah, Hong Kong cinema is big into the martial arts, obviously, right? So could be up there. I'll check it out.
Yeah, you should. It's a fun movie anyway. You know, it's not like the violence isn't super gratuitous. It's just martial artsy stuff. So it's not like I'm a big fan of these Indonesian movies, The Raid and The Raid 2. Oh, those they're disturbing. The style of, yeah, there's certain, I watch a ton of Asian stuff because I like martial arts movies. So certain styles like I'm sorry, the Indonesian style is really, really brutal. Whereas the Thai stuff is more, and it's kind of actually a little bit representative in their martial arts themselves. Like Silat's pretty brutal if you've ever seen it. But anyway, man, I know you kind of have a time crunch today.
Yeah, I got to keep it about an hour. got a lot to do. Unfortunately, it's my day off, but
All right,
what it
man.
is.
We all have lives. I wish we could just spend all day doing and talking about martial arts.
I'd get to spend a great chunk of it, so
That's
I'm
true.
unfortunate.
Yeah, you're wearing your work shirt. You do get to spend a lot of time talking about martial arts.
Yeah, it's not fair. I get to
All right.
they give me a mic. I can't take it away.
um. Anyway,
But yeah, I'm ready.
there's a sort of prevailing feeling in some of the Filipino martial arts and full contact stick fighting outside of Dog Brothers that kicking isn't really that great of an idea. Um, that's gone away a lot kind of recently, but you still sort of run into that attitude now and again. And part of it is because realistically, like a kick is pretty slow. Like you know that. Like you have to set up your kick with somehow. You know what I mean? Unless some people are lightning. There are guys that are very fast with their kicking, but for most of us, if we're gonna kick, we need to set it up with some sort of a combination of the hands first, or do something disruptive, or catch the guy like in a counter moment where he's starting to do something and you beat him to it. So it's really no different in weapons. It's all about timing, picking your moment, and also setting up the kicks. So that's kind of like those are sort of the two branches that I look at, is either picking your moment, because like a teep is all about timing. Like you just wait, timing and distance control, and then a round kick usually you set up. But again, there's times when that's not the case. You just kick the guy in the leg or whatever. But so I have here a cheap copy, but a copy nonetheless of one of it's backwards. This is Medieval Combat, and it's Hans Talhofer is the fight master who made this one. They call it a Fecht book, which means fight book in German. So this guy's one of the German masters. There's a few different ones, Meyer and Lichtenauer. Pretty sure those guys are both German. But one thing that I kind of like stick with people is that, because part of my coming to doing Dog Brothers was I found HEMA, and then I was like, oh, nobody does this like hard really. They either play this cute game where they're not doing real fighting moves, or it's like chubby guys in lace-up shirts with balding ponytails. Like, hey, when this starts to thin, this is going. Those guys don't feel that way. But if you go through these things, you start to realize that regardless of what culture you're dealing with, and regardless of what time period it is, the human body is the human body, and ways to manipulate it are pretty much the same. Teep.
There you go. There's your kick.
Straight teep. This is Sparta, whatever.
Oh
Pay
yeah.
attention to that. Yeah, pay attention to that roof block he's doing. Right? So that's something. This is a 15th century German guy talking about longsword fighting, but there's your teep. And then one thing that's extremely underrepresented in movies is that like the sword came in a lot of different forms. It didn't just come in like the cruciform style sword. So there's this thing called the Messer. The Messer is the German word for long knife. They had these single-edged, short, slightly curved swords, and they're doing basically what we're doing. This is a roof block, right? And he's doing the overwrap to disarm that we do in Filipino martial arts. That's right there is 100% something that I've already shown people in some of my other stuff. I might have even shown you a little bit of it, but anyway, I digress. That just goes to show that even though I'm picking these, kind of esoteric Eastern martial arts, it's because they work more into the modern world than something like longsword fencing does, Anyway, I've got that handled. So, all right. Whoa. All right, so Krabi Krabong in its most like common form that you find will be usually done with two swords. Right, we're gonna do single, but I'm just gonna kind of like quick overview. It would be done with two swords, and they grip them high. See how my grips are like almost a third of the way up the sword?
Mhm.
It's because they have these really long handles, and it almost looks like you would put a second hand on it, but it's actually a counterweight. So I'm gonna when I'm doing it with these big sticks for a second, I'm gonna kneel down so I don't hit my fan. Ooh, sorry, I just kicked my cat. Poor Loki. So in Krabi, right, your whole idea is that you're covering distance and you're keeping a similar measure from your opponent. So this is where you use actual stepping forward and back. So last time we were working on the angular footwork. This is why I leave this out, because there's a whole methodology for when I go forward and back straight line. You can shuffle. You can definitely shuffle, and that does happen. But it all has to do with distance control and which lead you want to have forward and what your plan is from there. So the footwork, as opposed to that angular collie footwork, is very linear, but it's powerful linear steps. You're not like, if you're going backwards, you're not like backpedaling, you're backpedaling. You know what I mean? You're giving ground in order to keep your measure between you and your opponent. But you could do that. There's a lot of kind of mix-ups of stepping and shuffling. So their basic footwork is stepping and shuffling, forward and back, and then linear side to side. But yeah, you can combine it with that angular footwork. Then the striking. So when in Krabi, they put an emphasis on protecting the head while you travel forward, right? So if we're fighting, right, and you're maybe like a step and a half away from me, I can't quite reach you from here or from here, right? But what I can do is I can take a big step and reach you. Ooh, I'm on my knee, trying to balance on my knees. So I can take a large step and get to you. But in doing so, I have to do something about my head. Because if we're fighting and I just come in and I go, you're gonna hit me while I'm doing that. Like, for sure. That's, as soon as someone comes at you like that, if they start cocking their stick back, hit them, you know? So I need to think about that intervening space and covering my dome. So the Thai version of it is, as you cover the space, you raise your stick and you block your head. It's a roof block. So there's sort of different styles and versions of doing this. I sort of like to point my the tip of my stick or my sword almost at the guy and then kind of cocked. It's gonna depend though on the angle of your opponent's strike, where you really roof block. But from here I come in, and then once my hand hits the high point, you throw the ball. So the strike looks like this. I just don't want to break my computer. So it goes here and then through. And then with the Thai style of striking, all right, so I keep saying really, I'm going to say a bunch of really general stuff, but most of it is an exception. So what I'm going to say now about the Thai style of striking, there's a bunch of exceptions to this. But the Thai style of striking in Krabi is you strike, and then you're always imagining this is the sword, right? So when you strike into your target, you draw back instead of slicing all the way through. It like cuts in and draws back. Yeah. In kendo, a lot of times they'll cut and retract like that. It's a similar idea. You don't want to get your sword stuck in somebody in the middle of a battle. You know what I'm saying? So if you swing as hard as you can, and you hit someone here, it's gonna get stuck, and you're gonna be like trying to pull it out in the midst of a battle, and his friend is gonna come over and go and get you with the spear. So you always want to think about having the ability to recycle your weapon. So in Thai style, it's done like that. So now I'm gonna ditch these big sticks, but I was just showing. So this is a 36-inch stick. It's pretty representative of their sword style, but the first foot of it is all going to be handle, maybe even a little more. What's that?
This is pretty close then. This is 32.
Yeah, 31, 32 is what I like to fight with. It's got a little less handle, but it's still got the meat of the stick. But there's not as much like twirling stuff in the Thai. And I think it's because you have a foot of handle here. They do use that for stuff. It would be used for blocking, as well as for hooking and striking. They put it down here and throw elbow strikes and things like that with it. Yep. But anyway, so I'm still gonna Thai grip these things, but I'm just gonna shorten up. But you can do the same thing on yours. You can grip a little bit higher. So the typical stance for a single sword or single stick. Actually, I'll show you double first. We're not really gonna do double right now, but just it's stand like this. They have one side in front and one side in back, and you're kind of keeping almost like a wedge going, regardless of where this hand is. Like I use this a lot of the time. I like to stand like this. You could stand like this as well. You also could stand like this. But the most basic would be kind of just with your sticks making sort of a wedge like that. A couple of reasons. You keep these pointing mostly forward so that if your opponent runs onto you, you can just thrust. You don't have to worry about doing anything else. You just, oh, gotcha, right? The basic sort of stepping and striking style, right? You start back here, you step forward, cover the head, cut through, retract. Step forward, cover the head, cut through, retract, right? And you can do this basically, your left hand was much better. Your left hand looked great. That right when we go work on a little, but the left hand looked great. Yeah, so we start back here. All right, also, different schools of Thai sword will teach this differently. I'm sort of like mishmashing a little bit. So most of them will throw their strikes fairly horizontal, and then they'll just vary the elevation of the strike. So they'll strike to the head, or they'll strike to the elbow, or they'll strike low. I use the same cutting angles that I use for Kali. Okay. So we have the descending strikes, those forehand diagonals, we have horizontal strikes, and then we have rising strikes. And you can do any of those at any height. So if I want to attack the ankle horizontally on my backhand, I would be out here and I would just drop and go backhand. So double stick footwork, like I said, is symmetrical. You're doing this, right? The blocking, if we were together, if we were in the same place, I would do this drill called walk the line, where one of us would strike, one of us would block, and we would literally go backwards and forwards, and we would mix up how that works. But I don't have the ability to be in the same place right now. So anywho, the blocking, so if you're coming at me stepping forward with strikes, I need to step with you and block. So as you step forward with your right, I need to step back with my right. And I need to block, because we're basically close enough to hit each other. We're at like just outside of kicking range. So you're coming in and I'm giving ground. As I give ground, I block. Or I can block. So you can either block across or you can block with the side that the strike is coming from. It depends on different things. It could depend on your idea for a counterattack. I could block, strike, or something like that, or I could block, strike. You mix it up, But if we were in the same place, we'd be able to do that back and forth, or not. So that's the basic double stick. So then you can ditch your second one, because we're mostly going to talk about single today. So from single, that's why I do this stance. This is like a Krabi Krabong single weapon stance. I've got my weapon mostly pointed at the guy. I also have it like a little bit across my body, because it just makes it easier to get where you're going if you have to block. But the stance is pretty low and pretty athletic and ready to go in whatever direction you want. But the stick stays, ready to go, so that you can thrust if the opponent comes in. When you're doing single weapon attacks, you have forehand and backhand. You do have forehand and backhand with doubles, but we're concentrating on the single stick. So the forehand strike, same one that we've just done. The backhand strike comes off of like an umbrella block. So my forehand strike, I come in like that. My backhand strike comes like that. And it's the same motion it's the same idea as the other one, where when it comes in and strikes, you draw it back. Yeah. So you're following through. You can follow through. If you're in if you're in a sword fight, you're going to want to hit and cut. It's just the function of the sword will make that effective. With a stick, if you hit and pull, the guy's going to be like, okay, sure. So with a stick, you are going to want to cut all the way through. You're going to want to throw that full slash. But those two mindsets, you have to reconcile with the situation that you're in. Are you in a sword fight? Or are you in a stick fight? I tend to practice this stuff if I'm practicing it, like if I'm practicing Krabi Krabong, I practice it as if I have a sword, or I use my machetes or something when I do it. And that's just to keep the mindset and the intent of what that art is. There isn't really, they do train with sticks, but you wouldn't find Krabi Krabong like stick fights really, except in Rambo 3. I don't know if you've ever seen Rambo 3. Before he goes to Afghanistan, he he's in a Thai monastery, and he makes money for the Buddhist monks through gambling on his stick fighting. So there is a stick fighting scene at the beginning of Rambo 3, and it's kind of Krabi Krabong. So anyway, I digress. So the use of the roof and umbrella block to cover your space while advancing is something that I use in basically everything. So I've only done basic class 1 with you, but I've been doing mostly stick and dagger stuff with my other guys, and there's most of the time when you're stepping, you're covering your head, or at least doing something evasive, even when you're angling off, because that the angle is almost more to get a favorable striking angle rather than the defensive side of it. The defensive side is important, but the getting a good angle to throw a strike on your opponent is also part of what we're looking at. But with the Krabi stuff, you're also kind of controlling the pace of the fight as well, because if you can control the distance, you can control everything else. You know what I mean? If you're the one who is dictating where the fight takes place. It's just like in MMA, when you have a guy who's a great wrestler who can either not get taken down or take the other guy down at will. It's a similar idea. If you can control the space between yourself and your opponent, there's nothing the other guy can do to you that you can't do first. So for the purpose of today, we're only really going to be worrying about strikes coming down from above, although we are going to look at a vertical line strike as well. So that's just kind of the basic overview of the Krabi Krabong style stuff that goes into my stuff. You've got the distance control part, right? With the footwork, the forward and back. Because even though I said, like, you never go straight forward or back, okay, exception to the rule. You do when you're controlling the distance between yourself and your opponent. But then you have to be ready to angle off and to change things. You can't just rely on, like, there are good empty hand fighters that don't do the crazy stuff. But if you look at a guy like Lomachenko, he looks so much better than anybody he fights because he utilizes angles in a way that they don't. So being able to link that into your fighting is really important, and you'll see it carry over into your empty hand fighting for sure. The one thing that Pete would always get on me about that was bleeding over from one side to the other is my tendency to turn to blade my body sideways a little bit. I don't do it terribly because even in a stick fight, you're sort of still standing forward. But I've noticed working with Malapet, the difference between my hips when I'm doing weapons and my hips when I'm doing Muay Thai now is completely different. I always kind of stood a little bit more this way, but now I'm learning to square up a bit more. But anyway, that's an aside. So we covered the footwork, and then also the idea of protecting your head while you're crossing the intervening distance, right? And then the strikes are essentially the same angle. It's just once you make contact, cut down, and you wind up back in ready position, right? So now we have to figure out how to get the kicking in there. So I haven't decided. This is sort of the material that I'm going to be training with everybody this week. And I haven't decided whether to do some of the kicking without a weapon first, which I think I'm going to do with people that don't really know how to kick. Because even people that sometimes throw kicks don't always really know how to do it. So I'm kind of going to skip the, this is how you throw a kick for you. But there's going to be two kinds. And I mean, realistically, there's kind of only two kinds of kicks. It's just sort of what you put into it. But it's going to be straight kicks and round kicks, right? So the straight kicks obviously are going to be like teeps, and then round kicks are going to be round kicks. Both of those, just like I've talked about the stick striking angles being good at whatever height you throw them at. Like if I'm hitting your leg versus your head versus your hand or whatever, it's those same angles. So for the kicking, it's the same thing. If you're throwing a leg kick, a body kick, or a head kick, same thing. You're just varying the height of the actual strike. For the most part, in weapons fights, kicking the head is tricky. I've had a lot of luck with straight kicks to the face. Kicking the head, you kind of have to have a little bit of either a specialized situation or be better than the other guy by a good amount. I mean, if you're better, you can just impose your will. But from the standpoint of, hold on. From the standpoint, oh God, my cat's trying to, hey, get down. Sorry, cat's a bit mischievous. From the standpoint of a stick fight, you want to kind of make sure that you're not leaving your leg hanging out in space, because if you're leaving your leg hanging out in space for any length of time, the other guy's going to get it. So one thing you can do to sort of practice the footwork at least is get on that female triangle, the forward triangle, and practice switching leads. So if you start in whatever lead you start in, take the step out on the triangle, throw the kick, return, and then step out on the triangle, throw the kick, return. See my leads changing every time? So the important part of this is that you're angling. Do this on the bag, even if you only do it for a couple of minutes. Take a piece of tape, right? And put it on the bag, like in the dead center of the bag, so that you can see where the center line is, and look how far you're getting offline and slamming that bag. That's another thing I do. I translate across the board is I'll just switch over here and throw the kick from the other side, and it messes people up a lot of the time. Getting a little warm. Hold on. Just gonna toss on a t-shirt real quick. All right. Sorry. It's hot in here. All right. So I've talked about practicing kicking off the female triangle. Obviously, that's not what we were just doing with Krabi Krabong, but it's where we kind of start to meld these things together, because we're going to use a little bit of the Krabi style, a little bit of the Kali style, going at the same time. So in Dog Brother martial arts, right, that style, you tend to do drills in a different way than like traditional Filipino martial arts, but I like that. And one of the main drills that I always warmed up with when I was getting ready for fights, and I was training DBMA all the time, was roof cycle. So basically, if we were standing across from each other at striking distance, I would throw a number one strike, and you would roof block, and then you would throw a number one strike right away. So we would go back and forth, roof block, number one, roof block, number one. And we can do this for an infinite amount of time. And that's all well and good. You can also do it off the umbrella in the back end, and you can mix these up. Once you get comfortable with blocking, you can mix these up. You can mix up the strikes, the blocks, whatever, and you can kind of turn it into a game without even breaking that pattern. But what we want to do after you get kind of comfortable doing this is you break that pattern, because for most people that train Filipino martial arts in this way, where they're thinking about stick fighting, they have some of this. Like almost everybody has this motion some way or another, where like, oh, don't get hit them back, block, counter, block, counter. Most people have it. So a lot of the times in the midst of a fight, you'll we'll all of a sudden be at range and we'll both do it like block, counter a couple of times. Once you've seen that the other guy will do that and you condition that response into him that you're going to do it, you can start to break the pattern. So that's one of the main ways that I'll kick is after people have seen a few of these, I start doing other stuff. Then you'll get one of these, or you'll get one of these, or something else. Something else will happen, or you'll just get one of these. You'll expect me to throw a stick strike, and right on my roof block, I'll punch you. So that's kind of the first stage, is striking off of your roof block. So just because you're in the process of blocking right now doesn't mean you can't also be striking. And if you look, I I posted, I think on my Foxhound Instagram, I posted a split screen of a round kick and a straight kick at the same time. My straight kicks will almost always come off of a roof block setup. There's an A and a B to that, but A is basically, this is Sparta, right? I'll cut, I'll block, and when I block, I kick. And I do it with a very forward intention. You can do this when the other guy is crashing on you, but instead of backing up, you can just stand strong, block his strike, and kick him to get distance. Or you can do it where you're coming in and you're covering the distance with force, right? So this can be a very aggressive attack. So I'm back here, cut, and I come in. But again, because we're covering the distance, we're protecting our head, right? Protecting the IQ is what Crafty Dog would call it. You can do it from either side. You can do it from here. Oh, and you can come in with your weapon side foot. I like to do that from this stance. If we're out here, if we're fighting and I'm fighting Kali style, I'll usually throw the cut first. I'll usually cut, block, and kick, and I'll use my back foot. But if I'm in a Krabi stance, I'll just come straight with the block and kick because everything is coming from the same side. We're just going, and we're using the whole body mechanic and driving right through. This one is kind of the more aggressive of the two. Like this is really your covering ground because I'm taking a big step with my back foot. This one's more like, here he comes, bang, and you just stuff the guy. So that's kind of the 1A of it, right? Is we're going off of the roof block itself. So here, boom. So your weapon side, and then other side. This can be a teep to the body. It can be a kick to the face. If you can land a front kick to the face, always land it to the face. Why wouldn't you land it to the face? It looks awesome. It makes everybody that saw it go, oh! And if you get a guy right in the chin, it tends to knock him out. Like Anderson did it, and then Machida did it to, they both did it to Vitor, actually. They both knocked out Vitor Belfort with the same kick. And then Steven Seagal took credit for both of them. Took credit for teaching them that. And that's not the case. So from this stance, and throw like 5 on each side, right? So we'll start from the Krabi stance. Yep. Nice, that looks good. And then from the Kali stance, we're gonna go 1, 2, kick. So like I said, either one of these could be done in either attitude, going forward or stopping your opponent's momentum. You don't really kick going backwards. That doesn't really, you don't like, like you can do, especially with Krabi, where you're retreating or you're giving ground in a very, very controlled manner. You could step back and then kick, but you're not going to step back and kick. You're not going to step back and kick while backpedaling. If you're going to stop and throw a kick, you're going to do it in a in a way to take back the initiative of the fight. It's not usually a panic thing. If it's a panic thing, you're screwed, you know. If you're panic kicking in this kind of a fight, you're probably going to wind up falling down. But that's kind of the quick and dirty of that, is that it's really difficult to throw a kick with any kind of conviction if you're giving ground. All right, so that's kind of straight kicking. Now we have round kicking. So round kicking is a little bit different. The straight kick, oh, I'm sorry, no, that was only straight kick A. Straight kick B is through this, you're still kind of using this roof cycle, but you're going to do it off the strike. And this is where things get a little bit squirrely. So the main thing here is you're giving your opponent something to think about by throwing the strike, right? Here, they were striking. The first kick we did, we were blocking and we were throwing a kick while our opponent was striking. So we're assuming they're thinking about their strike in that moment. And they're perceiving their strike striking our block. So that's where we're stealing the beat. They think they're gonna hit our stick and they get kicked in the guts or the face. The next step to that would be giving them an actual strike to think about while you throw the kick. But watch, mechanically, if I throw this kick while I throw this strike, I hit myself in the foot, right? That actually really didn't feel good. It's even worse when you do it hard. So we're in this kind of fight where we're going back and forth with the roof blocks. And so from here, my opponent is expecting that forehand diagonal slash of 45 degrees. Instead of doing that, we're going to give him a round strike down beside us. Yeah. So this vertical angle strike is really awkward, as I'm seeing. It's awkward to throw it first. Think about like a train. You know, with like the old school locomotives, how you could see the, I don't know what you call these little arms that move the wheels. You're doing this kind of a move, right? Like that. So I've gone from this to this. And I'm doing this so I don't blast myself in the foot. The strike is important in that if you hit the guy with the strike, it's good, but it's really only important because it's giving him something to think about. He has to block. If he doesn't block, the round strike is going to get him. So he's got to get his stick up there in the roof block. So just practice. Go do like a few of these, and then break your timing by doing one of these. Yeah, go through that a couple of times. Hold on one sec.
Are you gonna have time to take them out afterwards? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm gonna go get some. I'm gonna try, yeah. I'm gonna try and get you more.
The things are, I'm not gonna run it, but I'm gonna take a look. So things look like you won't be active.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, be careful. Sorry, the lady's going to take care of the horse. So, all right. So you're kind of getting the idea of that round strike on the outside. So that's something that it just takes work. It's like doing stick twirling. That stuff just takes repetitious practice that's boring as shit. Like I used to just sit there like on the couch and twirl my sticks like that to get the wrist mobility to keep a good grip. Because everybody can do this move. Like they do it in movies all the time where they open their hand. That's not a great idea because somebody will blast your weapon out of your hand while you're doing these. But if I see somebody doing this, I'm going to start trying to hit them while they do it. But instead, if I see somebody doing this really hot, see, my left is trash compared to my right.
Yeah, I mean, forearms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a good wrist forearm workout. And a lot of the times, because we don't do this very often, you have like some, scar tissue and build up in your wrist that you have to sort of break up. But eventually you get there. I still can't do it. So my old teacher used to have us do these. He also will go like one up, one down, opposite directions. I still can't do that. He tried for years to teach it to me, and I just do not have it.
Yeah, no, and not even.
Well, like I can or the opposite, like I can do that kind of stuff, but for some reason, that particular motion where you start one up, one down, and go opposites is really hard for me. But anyway, that's an aside. So here, right, you practice that circular strike to your side. Now you put the kick in. So you're going back and forth with the guy, right? You get to here and you go boom, right? You have to throw the strike because that gives him something to think about. If you just try and straight kick the dude, he's going to go, oh, boom, and hit you in the foot. But if you're going like that, from here, boom. You, I guess, could do it with, yeah, you can do it with both feet. This might be one to take outside next time. I'm really, I keep whipping my stick up high by this fan. Yeah, so practice that through a few times. So you're throwing, yep, off the cycle. There you go. Nice. Nice. You're kind of, which actually isn't wrong. Like your mechanic looks good. It looks like you're recycling pretty fast. You're sort of just throwing straight down like a hammer. Like that's not wrong either. I'm coming all the way through, and you're kind of just doing these or doing something kind of out to the side. If it works, it works. For the sake of practicing the mechanic, you want to kind of do these round strikes. But if you were in a fight, what you're doing would work. It's just not exactly the drill.
I think that's just a mobility thing, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just like I was saying, just like with the wrist rolls, this sort of thing is gonna take a little while. So don't take it so much as criticism as just that's an area to work on, because that mobility, the more shoulder mobility you have, the better. And it's same with everything. I mean, elbows, wrists, all that stuff. The more mobility that you have, the better.
For sure.
Just in life, just in life. But so those are kind of our two straight kick options. You've got it off of the roof block, and then you've got it off of the strike. Remembering that if you throw it while you're striking across, you're probably going to hit yourself in the foot. Then we have the round kick. And so where the straight kick, yeah, once in a while, a straight kick to the body will be enough to stop a guy. Or like, yeah, you might get lucky and straight kick a guy in the chin and drop him. But most of the time, a straight kick is followed up with another strike. Like most of the time, if I kick you in the stomach and you kind of go back a little, I'm going to be coming forward to follow up. Or, like I said, you can do it teeping the way that we teep in a Muay Thai fight as well, where it's like a stop kick. But for the most part, you're gonna, you'll roof block, kick, strike. So from the Krabi stance, it would be like a roof block, kick, strike. Roof block, kick, strike. Nice. And then same from the other side. Roof block, kick, strike. From here, I might roof block, kick, and then backhand.
Natural.
You get a little bit more distance, but yeah. And don't be afraid to put your second hand on the backhand to give it a little bit more power. Yeah, nice. Roof block, kick, strike. And then we have roof block, kick, strike. Okay. From there, you can kind of build and put in whatever other combinations, but that roof block, kick, strike, it can become like part of your bread and butter fighting combos, right? That can be, you can build off of those two ideas pretty much infinitely at that point. All right, now we'll talk about round kicks. All right, so round kicks have like a completely different place. Whereas those teep kicks are either a setup or like a stop kick, the round kick can sort of be like the intention of the whole combination, where like that's what's doing the real damage. And the stick is basically just there as distraction. So instead of just throwing kicks, because like if you see a guy load up for a kick, you're gonna just give ground and hit him in the foot. But here, we wanna mask our intention. So the first way that we do that is by throwing a backhand strike. There you go, bud. My cat wanted to look out the window and he was about to start wrenching on the blinds if I didn't open them up for him. So the first way you do that is with your rear foot, and you do it behind a diagonal or horizontal backhand. So if you're just throwing the kick, it's unguarded. But if you're throwing the kick with a backhand, they have to do something about that backhand, right? If there's a strike coming with the stick, that has to be your first priority. You have to try and block that, or at least move out of the way. Pretty much at this point, your only good option is to give ground. Because if I'm throwing a full power stick strike and that same body mechanic is driving my hip forward for the kick, there's a lot of power coming your way on two different planes, right? There's the high plane where your stick is, and then there's the low plane where your kick is coming from. And a lot of guys will try and set this up by getting your hand up high. So they'll start throwing strikes up here kind of to clear the body, because this one's going to be a body kick. So I'll throw a couple like this and you'll start blocking high, and then I'll go wow and come through with the kick. So because I'm a righty, I'm kicking with my left leg back a lot of the times, which will set up for a liver kick. So I don't know how much anatomy you do, but your liver is on your right side. This is the bottom of my rib cage. The liver is like kind of up just under the bottom of the rib cage on the right side. So a left leg power kick to the body is what gives people that liver shot. And when you hit someone in the liver, they'll usually get it and they kind of take half a step forward and then they go, oh, like that. So if you're able to do this with your left leg, that can be a fight ender right there. Just a liver kick, that could be it. Because the guy's gonna take one step forward and he's gonna go down like that, and you can come in and finish him off. Doesn't work on everybody. Everybody will at least have an instant of not being good, but some guys will recover faster than others. There's some people that want no more. They'll take that shot and be like, that's it, I'm done. You even see it happen occasionally in professional fighting where, you know, they just shut down from that. So this first strike is going to be a body kick with your rear leg. Because of your situation where you're a lefty, you're not going to probably be able to hit the liver without an angle. So you can still get it. You're just going to have to angle off a little bit different to land it with that foot. But it's okay, because there's also kicks off the off the same side, but we'll do this one first. So typically from here, you can just launch, strike, and kick, but most of the time I'd do a forehand, backhand kick. I just like the way it flows better that way. So we'll practice a few of those. It's forehand, backhand kick. Now I'm throwing, you can do either. You can do diagonal, but what I'm throwing is what I consider to be like the jab cross of stick fighting. Forehand diagonal to backhand horizontal. This is Eric Naus was top dog when things started, and he's still, we still call him top dog, and he's still pretty formidable. But this is one of his favorite combinations: forehand to backhand horizontal. Right. So this forehand to backhand horizontal, and then throw the kick on the backhand horizontal. Forehand, backhand, boom. Right. Forehand, backhand, boom. Right. So that's making me dizzy, so I'm going to stop doing it. But you keep doing it for a minute. And let me watch. So forehand, backhand. Your forehand's a little horizontal too. So you want to throw the forehand on, this is another like, sort of mentally, this is sort of a jump ahead. But if you're throwing this on one angle and this on another angle, that'll mess the guy up. So we're going on this diagonal plane here, and then we're changing like that. Yeah, nice. Nice. Awesome. So this can be a leg kick, this could be a body kick, this could be a head kick. It all depends on the circumstance, how close the guy is, and what your overall intention is. So the other one, I know you got to go pretty soon, but I'll just show you the other side real quick, and then you'll have this to refer back to, and also ask me any questions or whatever that you have. So our first kick was the rear leg off the backhand. Now we're going to do the other leg. So here, this is sort of where that stepping angular kick drill that I showed you comes in, because really it's hard to you can front leg ground kick somebody, but it's almost always better to change your lead and do it. So here we're doing it on the forehand strike. So we're doing, there is this as well, but we're skipping that for right now. We're sticking with the backhand strike bringing the rear leg and the forehand strike bringing the same side leg. And I'm just doing that for simplicity's sake. But here, this one comes in a lot when you're close to the guy, kind of. If he might stuff this strike. So you're throwing the forehand and the kick at the same time, right? So you're getting this motion. And this will force the guy to block. Like, you might even be able to grab your arm, but in doing so, they're opening this up. This is where, from your lefty stance, you're going to start turning the liver into pupil pate, right? Because you're going to be able to kick underneath the guy's arm and rising into the liver. You have kind of two options here. You can throw a sort of Thai style kick where you're coming up, driving the knee and going over, or you could throw a rising kick like this, up and under. Sometimes this will be safer. So Muay Thai, like if Pete had seen me doing this, he'd be like, hey, bring your knee up, turn your hip over. Like, that's how you kick in Muay Thai. But that's not the only way to kick. So this kick, Crafty Dog calls it a machete kick. It's just a rising angle like this. Instead of doing Muay Thai, it's just coming up. Because it's aimed up into the body like that. And if it misses here, it's gonna land in here somewhere, you know, and it's gonna be disruptive. You, like I said, you can kind of do it both ways. So, man, I'm gonna step out. Yeah. I don't have a ton of, I'm like trying not to hit the window, trying not to hit the ceiling. I need to get a, like a better camera and mic setup so I can do this outside. But, so.
Yeah, you got the nice weather for it.
Yeah.
Snow.
Yeah. Right now it's raining here. Like we get rain we have like a rainy season of a couple of months and then it's just god awful hot the rest of the time. So out here, right, step off, boom. Same, you know, same idea as the other one. You're giving him something he has to pay attention to by swinging the stick to, you know, to mask the leg strike. All right, well, it's just after 8 and my dog is starting to cry. You can hear him out there. Heather was like, it's wet, I'm not taking him with me to the barn. So I'm gonna let him out to go pee anyway. But so thus far, the recording symbol up in the corner has stayed on. So I think I've got this. And yeah, probably this evening I'll send you a link so that you can refer back to it. But I'm in the process of creating my notes for this one. So when I'm done with the notes, I'll send you those too. This is the I'm gonna run the, some version. You just got the first one, which has the most like uhs and ums. As I try and figure out how to kind of piece all this together in a coherent manner. But yeah. So anyway, man, do you have any questions kind of right now? Do you have any input, feedback?
Nothing comes to mind as far as questions go. Yeah, I like it. I like the I like to give a little bit of history too. I'm a fan of that stuff. I enjoy that stuff. So that's cool. Yeah, it's going well. I like it. I want to keep us doing this time if this works for you.
Cool. Yeah, perfect. This can be your time for sure. All right, brother. Well, have a good day. If you come up with any questions, definitely let me know, and I will. I'll get you that stuff as soon as it's up.
Fantastic, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a great rest of your day.